everyone's a hypocrite. I get it. But when people try and give Bernie Sanders this credit, like, well, actually, he believes what he says. You mean he believes that breadlines are a good thing and that a 90% tax rate is reasonable and that Russia and communist China had it right? Why would I give him any brownie points for believing in evil? Speaking of people who get it wrong, noted socialist with these 3 houses, Bernie Sanders. Also, by the way, hold on a second. I don't understand. Yeah. He has 3 houses, and he always makes an excuse. He's like, look, it makes sense. I have one main house. I have a vacation house and a summer camp. Well, what's the vacation house for? Isn't that the summer camp? Because it's a whole house.
Well, that's a winter vacation house.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, he's got to get away from, Vermont or wherever he's from.
No, it's in Vermont.
Oh, well, then,
Snow. I want to wash my hair, my face, my hands with snow.
Well, in socialism, someone has to be on top, Stephen.
Right, yes, exactly. That would be Daddy. Now, so noted socialist with those 3 houses. He also was I believe this was before going on Joe Rogan's show, pretty pissed at President Trump for beating up on poor Iran. Here he is at a rally.
We just bombed Iran. Oh, that just gave me the chills. I'm scared.
Me too, for a good thing.
I'm scared.
A very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran, etc.
Disgusting.
Good news! There is no more war, bitches. I don't know if you are entirely familiar with the concept of a ceasefire, but let me break it down for you. It's where they cease fire, and that's all it is. That's what it is. It means there's no more.
They don't know what cease is. Cease means stop.
You had fire.
What's the crease? What, do I have to fold it? No.
It's there.
So, Bernie said, it's almost like he's rooting against the United States of America at that point. And I get it. You could have disagreements on foreign policy, but when your initial reaction without information is, oh, can you believe that we did something to Iran? As though they're right and we're wrong. That means you hate the United States of America, but what do you expect from a man who literally honeymooned in the USSR? That doesn't even make sense. There's no Sandals resort there.
It was very romantic to wait in the bread lines.
It's like there's no reason.
They bonded.
Yes.
We're going to have dinner by the gutter.
Yes, that's right.
In the street.
That's right. Moscow is just like a city in the middle of a forest. There's nothing there. So, he was on Joe Rogan's show. And this is important because, you guys need to be able to celebrate the wins. Gen Z, this is the first time that you've ever seen a generation that young be this conservative. Ever. People usually have to grow up quite a bit before they lean right. We have never seen this. At least at least going back to the 1940s from what I know. And I don't really trust the polling before that because they were like using an abacus and stuff.
It's true.
So that is a win that people may not fully appreciate. And to sort of add more context to this, remember, Bernie Sanders was on Joe Rogan, or at least it was uploaded yesterday. This is the same show he was on not too long ago, where in that scenario, Joe Rogan had endorsed Bernie Sanders in 2020.
Who are you going to vote for in the primary?
I think I'll probably vote for Bernie. He's been insanely consistent his entire life. He's basically been saying the same thing, been for the same thing his whole life. And that in and of itself is a very powerful structure.
Okay, so I disagreed then and I disagree now. You can be consistently shitty. Consistency is only valuable if you're consistently right, or you're consistently virtuous, or you're consistently proven over time to have been correct. Bernie Sanders has contributed nothing. You understand? Bernie Sanders hasn't seen the private sector really his entire adult life. And everyone's a hypocrite. I get it. But when people try and give Bernie Sanders this credit, like, well, actually, he believes what he says. You mean he believes that breadlines are a good thing and that a 90% tax rate is reasonable and that Russia and communist China had it right? Why would I give him any brownie points for believing in evil? Which brings us to an installment of Claim Truth. All right. And here's one of the claims that Bernie Sanders, don't call him an owl, made Come on.
He looks like Wolverine and Deadpool at the same time.
Yes, he does. You'll see in the clip, his shoulders are so small that normal shirts become epaulets, become shoulder pads. Here's one of the claims that he made, and Joe Rogan, he really did try in this case to push back, but hindsight is always 20/20, and we have the ability right now to thoroughly fact check all of it. So the claim from Bernie Sanders, I was climb. They're nocturnal.
Climb to the top of socialism.
That's right. We'll climb to the top of you. Hey, look. All you ladies can climb to the top of my totem pole.
Look how big my shoulders are.
That's right.
Because I'm a climber.
You can see the moment he realizes that this is not going to be a friendly interview with Joe Rogan. You can see where he's like, yeah, well, climate change. And he gets pushed back. He's like, son of a bitch! I've been sandbagged! So, claim.
I was waiting for it. Yeah.
Claim climate change is real and the last 10 years are the warmest ever. Here's the thing, he could just say, but he makes it worse.
You got to deal with this climate change issue. And I know that, there are some people who think climate change is a hoax. Mm-hmm. It ain't a hoax. I think the last 10 years have been the warmest on record.
Uh-oh.
We can't create millions of good-paying jobs transforming our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency, to solar, to wind, and other sustainable energies.
I think the climate change issue is very complicated. The Washington Post looked at it. What was the time period that they looked at? That essentially they found that we're in a cooling period. That the Earth over the past X amount of years, and this was like a very inconvenient discovery, but they had to report the data, and kudos to them for doing that. So look at the far end of that graph, and you see we're in a cooling period.
Well, I'm not sure. I didn't read that article, but
yeah,
no kidding.
The scientists who are out there, I think.
I know, but there's a lot of money involved in that too, Bernie. That's part of the problem. China is like, what percentage of?
They are the major polluter right now in terms of carbon. We're number 2. We used to be 1. They are number 1 right now.
It's very high.
It's not an American issue. It is a global issue, and all I can tell you is that we are, in my view, going to see more extreme weather disturbances in the coming years than we have ever. And we're seeing them right now.
Bold predictions. Do you notice he moves away from the empirical to very broad? Cooler my taint! I think winter's gonna be bad, you filthy son of a bitch!
Yeah.
He gets more and more angry. He's like, I don't know about... Well, I do. Well, I don't!
I didn't read that article.
We're gonna have weather! Okay, great, thanks. Here's the truth, all right? Just on that specific claim, the Earth is much cooler than in the past. So this is the article that was in question in the Washington Post. The average global temperature, they claim 485 million years ago, this is from the WAPO article, was above 86 degrees. Last year was 58 degrees. And what's really interesting is that has been happening, a significant cooling trend, according to many scientists. I know Bernie will point to some scientists, but plenty of other scientists saying, yeah, actually, it is cooling, despite the fact that carbon emissions have consistently gone up globally. So on the left, this is very important. They try and say, well, actually, the ozone hole is closed. And they'll say, well, it's not just because of carbon, it's because of other CFCs where you couldn't use hairspray. It all contributes. But they say that's because of the measures we've taken. No. It's gone up. It's gone up consistently, and temperatures have gone down. Now, the United States has leveled off. China, India, their emissions have gone up. The communist bastion of, it's a utopia, according to Bernie. I mean, communist China is not that far off from USSR, where he honeymooned.
Yes, and by the way, he'd like to destroy our economy while not addressing the major drivers of this. The United States and every country in Europe and every country in Africa and South America and everywhere else could do everything right, get to zero, and it wouldn't make a damn bit of difference according to their models because of China, and mostly China, but some India as well.
Yeah.
So maybe start there if they're willing to play ball. And you know what China does?
Yeah, exactly. South American. Yeah. You drive no Dr. car, they're very gay. We poo in street.
What power? Electricity? Coal. You drive coal car. It's so stupid.
Meanwhile, global temperatures are down to 58 degrees on average, which is the worst boy band.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I particularly hate their single, the invisible can. It just seems very derivative. So here's the next claim that he makes, and it's always interesting when he gets just checked a little bit that there are too many big donors in politics. And hear what he's saying right here, where he's saying, you may be opposed to Bernie Sanders and your money is your freedom. You can spend money to tell people, to educate them that I'm a socialist. And he says that like it's a bad thing.
As a result of the Citizens United Supreme Court decision, I think it's 15, 16 years old, what it says is you're a billionaire. You have now the constitutional right, because your money is your freedom of expression, right? So you don't like Bernie Sanders, you can put millions or hundreds of millions of dollars into a campaign and express your view about how terrible Bernie Sanders is, and you can buy that election, right? That's your constitutional right. I think that's probably the worst decision that the Supreme Court has ever made. So what is the result of that decision? The result of that decision, let's take us to where we are today, is that Elon Musk, and I know Elon was on your show, and he's here at Austin, huh?
Elon.
Yeah.
Okay. And we could talk about Elon, but he spent $270 million to elect Trump as president. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's absurd that any one person.
What's the most someone donated towards the Harris campaign?
Good job, Joe.
They spent a lot of money on Harris as well.
They spent $1.5 billion just
Combined.
over the course of a couple of months.
You got it. All right, let me talk about it. So I'm not here just to say it's a Republican. That's my point here.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he kind of does. I love it. He goes, that was a good job. How much did they spend on, what was the biggest donation to Kamala's campaign? You can hear me like, shut! Here's the truth, okay? And I don't think that Joe had the numbers. And, of course, Bernie never has the numbers, but that doesn't stop him from wanting to instate totalitarian policy. Kamala raised $1 billion with 83 billionaires backing her.
Wow.
Donald Trump raised $392 million with 52 billionaires backing him. Though I should note, that's raised versus Kamala actually spent $2 billion, which means she still has to pay some of it off. That's a lot of mayors to blow. So let's,
You don't gulp it down immediately, it starts to bend.
Okay, that was a surprise for me. I didn't.
She has a point. That is what happens.
Where to go from
You know what? You want to talk about? Yeah,
try to move on.
That's a good thing.
Tactfully move on from that.
Look, if it's starting to bend, that's a sign of a job well done.
I think that was paper straws.
Oh, either way,
We're
in both scenarios, you're choking a turtle. Now, you're talking about corruption. I don't know if you know this, but AOC, Miss Lady of the People, over 3/4 of all of her funding came from out of state. People not even in her district. Hey, why don't we talk about that? Why isn't that a bigger deal? Why don't we talk about the local politics as opposed to on a national? I get it, Citizens United. A lot of you don't know necessarily that Citizens United was about a documentary that was anti-Hillary Clinton, right, that went to the Supreme Court, whether they had a right to release this and whether businesses had the right to basically be seen as people and they still maintain their First Amendment. It's more complicated than he makes it out to be. He just never shines a light on his own side. And I know people say, oh, during the primaries. No, he doesn't when it's for self-gratification because he got screwed. He had the rug pulled out from him in a primary. I get it.
Yeah.
He's just not consistent. And then...
But he's never even said like what a number would be. Like, so basically you're mad that people got to hear the message from the candidates because essentially that's what this money does is it puts ads in front of people. Right. You can say that the ads are complete lies and stuff like that and you can run against whatever's in the ads, but you're pissed off that people got to see more content from these candidates is what it really comes down to. And you've never put a number out of what is acceptable.
Also, by the way, if you were to tally up the hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in free advertising from CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, CBS, let alone what happened with Meta, Twitter, YouTube, Google, manipulating search algorithms. It's not even close. The actual spending is not even close, but if you were to actually take that into account, free advertising, it's not even in the same galaxy. No. He then went on to try and sort of substantiate it. He pushed Trump's BBC as an example. Oh, no, wait, sorry. That was his college erotica. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, where he talked about
you have to read that.
Women. He says, here, let me read this. Have you looked at the Stag Man, Hero, Tough magazines on the shelf of your local bookstores? Do you know why the newspapers with articles with articles like, I can't read this, it's too small, with girl 12 raped by 14 men, and so well, Sanders wrote, to what us, I can't read it. Can you read it, Gerald? It's way too...
Are they appealing?
Yeah.
The article also says that a man's typical fantasy of a woman includes her tied up and abused.
Yeah. Maybe that's a you thing. Bernie, not you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I can't do the
He's like-
voice. See,
he's like-
then it looks like I'm saying it. They're going to clip it for the freaking soundboard. And you just played right.
It's just I love how Bernie acts like it's relatable. Like Bernie just doesn't understand. He's the least relatable socialist ever. He's like, come on, hey folks, don't we all have 3 houses? He's like, hey, don't you all have Scandinavian fart fantasies? No.
Fart fantasies?
I'm just saying, like the weird sex stuff. It's like, no, that's just a you problem, Bernie. So sorry, BBC. I just wanted to remind you of his profane erotica from his younger years. He was talking about President Trump's big, beautiful bill, the BBB. Here's a real clip.
Musk spends that money, and what's his reward? He becomes the most powerful person in government for 3 or 4 months. Okay, fine. But what you have right now, and I just saw this the other day, you are a Republican member of Congress, okay? And you say, there's a reconciliation bill, which we can talk about in a minute, that this is Trump's big, beautiful bill that's coming up literally on the floor of the Senate.
Do you guys realize this is a technique that Bernie uses? And he very rarely actually does. He says, we could talk about it in a minute.
He never does.
He doesn't. No. It's just a way. It's a way to sort of present like he's going to be balanced. Present like he's going to be at least reflective. And he doesn't do it. He does go to hack talking points. And for some reason, people give him a pass for something he doesn't actually do. There's no balance and there's no objectivity coming from this man ever. Let's keep playing.
Very shortly. So let's say you're a Republican representing a low-income district. And you say, I got a lot of people on Medicaid in my district, and kids can't get to college, and I worry about food programs. I don't think it's a good idea to give tax breaks to billionaires and cut back on Medicaid. You make that announcement today. What happens to you?
It's over. You get attacked.
You finished.
The swarm comes for you.
You got it.
Right. Yeah, good.
You got it.
So that's the implication there. But again, they're talking about Trump. Who gets the tax cuts? We look at the 2017 Trump tax cuts, which have been solidified, and will be with this bill. It largely affects families earning $30,000 to $80,000 a year. Seniors, there's no taxes on tips, overtime. And when he talks about cutting Medicaid, who gets cut from Medicaid with this bill? We've gone through it.
Families?
It is exclusively young, able-bodied, childless people who refuse to work. And you only have to work 80 hours a month, meaning if you are young, able-bodied, you don't have children, and you refuse to work, you will no longer get a blank check. And you're just required to work 20 hours a week. Also, illegal aliens. So the number of people who actually would qualify for what you think, Medicaid, if you support the program at all, the number of valid people who've been kicked off or would be kicked off with this bill, 0. None. Just 20, 30-something-year-olds who are single, childless, refuse to work, and illegal aliens. Bernie Sanders is a dishonest person, and he deserves no credit for anything, including being able to sit upright. Here's the next claim that he makes. He says that President Trump, because Bernie Sanders, by the way, you have to understand this too. I come from Canada, where we have the CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. When he talks about corporate media, the alternative is government media, like Pravda, which he supports from the country where he honeymooned while it was still communist. You guys get this, right? In other words, when he says we shouldn't have Fox News and you shouldn't be able to go after the media, we need what they have in the place where I did my honeymoon, Pravda. He wants propaganda exclusively. So he says that Donald Trump, he's an authoritarian because he goes after the media. And we'll give you the truth because it's glaring.
One of the things, and there's a lot of arguments about Trump, that worries me very, very much is this movement toward authoritarianism and going after media, suing media.
As opposed to the freedom of communism.
The authority that Congress has.
When you say suing media, are you talking about the CBS lawsuit?
Among other things.
Right, but don't you think there's a real issue with what they did?
No.
You don't think that there's a real issue in editing conversations to give someone an answer that's different than what they really answered?
Joe, I've been on 8 zillion shows, right? In my life.
Okay.
Now, should I sue you if you ask me some stupid question that I don't like, right? Or that you do something. Should I sue you? He has sued ABC.
That happened.
Pause. He is a manipulative prick. That's a false equivalency, and he knows it. Joe's not asking him about, hey, I think you should be able to sue me if I ask a question you don't like. He's asking Bernie, don't you think there's something ethically wrong with what you claim to be objective journalism if they are, of their own volition, editing down an interview specifically to favor one candidate while running hit pieces on the other. He's not saying, hey, should you have the right to sue me because I ask you a question? And Bernie knows what he's doing. You either have to believe that this guy is retarded or he's disingenuous. I think one of the biggest lies in politics, and I even see people on the right as giving credit, like at least he's genuine. Does that seem genuine?
No, that's not genuine because Joe laid it out for him. He said they edited it down to give her an answer that she didn't actually say.
Right. Let's hear the and he goes, you don't think there's anything wrong? No, I don't.
Hush, please, please don't say anything.
I got talking points.
You can't tell the truth.
Play.
He is suing the Des Moines Register because of a poll that came out during the campaign that he didn't like.
Nope.
All right. He is suing CBS for this Kamala Harris interview. So do I think how many? I cannot tell you the number of stories done about me that were not good stories.
What did they read your own erotica?
Did they quote you word for word, completely in context?
Yeah.
Yes, but it was really bad.
Well, here's the truth here, and I'm going to get to all of the examples, but here's the really important truth. In every single instance that I'm about to list for you, Bernie Sanders is defending propaganda. Whether it's the Des Moines Register, whether it's CBS, whether it's ABC. And in many of these cases, the courts have ruled, Bernie, here's the one through line. He is defending dishonest propaganda that invariably only favors one side.
Yes.
Let me lay it out for you. CBS, President Trump rightfully is suing CBS for deceitfully editing the Kamala Harris interview on 60 Minutes. So the FCC already released the transcript, which showed that the video was edited down from 50 minutes to 20 minutes, including editing out nonsensical answers that didn't even relate to the question, or as Bernie Sanders refers to it, an answer. With ABC, Trump sued them and George Stephanopoulos for defamation because they wrongfully said that Trump was liable for rape of E. Jean Carroll. You still have people out there who believe that. He was not found to be liable of rape. E. Jean Carroll, they had to pay Trump a $16 million settlement. So FCC admitted, at least at this point right now, propaganda. ABC, they had to pay $16 million because propaganda. It's already been defended by Bernie Sanders. Meta had to pay a $25 million settlement to Trump after they suspended him, right after January 6th.
Yep.
The Des Moines Register, that's another one. Ann Seltzer, who I believe is retired now because of the stench of propaganda that still clings to her. Like the sleeves to Bernie Sanders' shoulders. In his lawsuit, President Trump accused the outlet of brazen election interference. Here's why. The poll was really close to the election, and it was 16 points off. It was completely unprecedented, and it was being used by the media to say, oh my gosh, hey, Trump doesn't even have a chance. Trump doesn't have a chance. Kamala's up in Iowa by 3. How did it end up? Trump was up by 13. And there has been no justification. There's been no explanation whatsoever for the methodology outside of propaganda. So ABC, CBS, Meta, Des Moines Register, the one through line is Bernie Sanders is defending propaganda. And he's doing the same thing when he wants to silence voices of dissent when he talks about Citizens United. Even if you have a view of PACs, and I agree with you, that we need to probably reform our elections a little bit as far as spending, I get it. But his problem is that someone was going to privately release an anti-Hillary Clinton documentary. He defends the big brother government at every single turn and tries to keep the little guy under his thumb.
I remember when we did our election coverage last year, I know how much you guys spent on legal and how much you guys spent on were careful to not give out false information or give out false leads because of this reason.
Remember on election night when we were the first place to call Georgia?
And you were like, I don't know if we should.
We called the whole election, and I was just like, I was with fear and trembling. I actually had to confirm. I'm like, wait, so he won the whole thing?
Yeah, because we're the first ones to do it. But
we had data people we paid more money.
It cost data. It cost many, many millions of dollars.
Yes,
just to give you an idea for election.
It's a huge responsibility.
Yeah,
it's a huge liability.
It absolutely is.
They should be held liable.
Yeah, 13 points off, and it's like, yeah, but how'd you get there? I don't know. I retire. You can't just do that.
And everybody covered it. CNN ran with it. They extrapolated it out across the United States if these polls were off. It's fine to be off because every single freaking poll is off.
Yeah.
Unless you want to look at Rasmussen and then, our buddy, Mark Mitchell over there usually gets it pretty freaking close.
Pretty freaking close.
But these things, no. That was propaganda. What was it, like November 5th when that came out? So it wasn't exactly like tons of months to figure out what was going on. It was like right before the election.
You say propaganda like it's a bad thing.
Yes, Goebbels.
You say propaganda. I say Sunday funnies. Piece of shit. It's hard to get, not you, Bernie. It's hard to get accurate information these days. And of course, with another myth that Bernie has pushed out there, but the Democrats are doing a lot to fix it. Those pesky news deserts. Remember food deserts? News deserts. And the left is really doing their level best to fix that.
News to the desert! News to the desert! So saith X. Candace Owens has accused 1. Dr. Jordan Peterson of being paid by the Jews, a claim which he vociferously denies, in taking into account all the facets of all the variables and so on. News to the desert.
So basically, Bernie is a socialist with 3 houses who honeymooned in the USSR, and I wish that I loved anything as much as Bernie Sanders loves propaganda and protecting bloated, bureaucratic government. There's nothing that he loves more because it's the only thing he knows. Unlike Bernie Sanders, who has subsisted off of the government teat for his entire life while contributing nothing, also being the least generous representative, I believe, in our hallowed halls, and the least generous tipper. So both charity and tipping, he is a socialist. Unlike him, we're actually funded by viewers like you. So we do take this, for a silly comedy show, quite seriously in serving you, and we do appreciate your support. If you want this to continue, hey, consider joining Mug Club, Rumble Premium. Mug Club is Rumble Premium. Rumble Premium is now Mug Club. You get not only this, 100% more show, you get a Friday show. You get the entire experience there ad-free. That's the wrong one, Nick, but Toolman is out. It's okay.
We like that too.
It's okay.
He's an understudy! He couldn't study my undercarriage!
Hit it!
What? No, don't hit it. Don't listen to that Gentile!
But
lick my taint, and you lick his taint!
What is it with you and the T words?
You don't say taint?
I'm kidding.
I learn something new about you every day. And I like you less.
So he's a socialist. So you can continue watching, by the way. If you are not a member, you'll continue watching Tim Pool. He's coming up in just a second. But Bernie Sanders, a socialist, endorsed another socialist, which is a sign of the apocalypse to come. Sorry, just for New York City. Zohran Mamdani for mayor of New York. Hey, do you like what you saw? I don't know how because it's on YouTube and we have to cut all the good parts out. So you should tune in live weekdays at 11 a.m. Eastern on Rumble. We can still speak freely and even use words like and get and whoa. You've been here this whole time?
Yeah. Snuck in.